How's it going, Dowell?
Good, how are you?
Not bad. We've heard a lot from other players and Shane about Xavier Legette, how hard he works. Just how long were you here before you met him and really saw what he was putting into this offseason?
Yeah, I saw him when I got here for ball practice. I was here for a couple days before the team left and went to Jacksonville, and I went back to Arkansas. And obviously, when you see him, he's an impressive-looking athlete. He's a bigger kid, thick jointed. He's put together in his lower half. So when you see him, you're like, hey, he's definitely an impressive athlete. And he made some plays in that Notre Dame game, and didn't have a ton of opportunities during the season. But then when we got back to school and we started watching him, and it's like, hey, this guy's a really hard worker. And you want to see, can a guy be consistent and be the same person every day? Is it, hey, there's a new offensive coordinator, someone work really hard and like be the guy that puts the apple on the desk for the teacher and try to do things right for a little while. But do you have the consistency to be able to do it every day, day after day, when it's hot, when you're tired, when things aren't going great? But I think it goes back to, I think I mentioned this in here before, is like he has an unbelievable story. You talk about what happened with his parents, and when you go through really hard things in life, like those are people you bet on, because he has the ability to handle adversity. And so I got to watch him work in all of our stuff with Coach Day and Coach Morton in the summer and spring. And I think I said it last week. I don't think the kids missed one practice since I've been here. Which is hard because if you go that hard all the time, you're going to have nicks and bruises and get beat up and have sore hamstrings. But the guy's built to last, and he's done things the right way. And he is you root for people that have earned what they've gotten, and he continues to earn it every day. Yesterday at practice, you just got that like country, like, hey, ball, I'm tired now. Hey, it might not look good, but I promise, Paul, I'm straining. And he's so country, and he is. You watch the tape, and you're like, there's like a play or two where he's given everything he's got, but he's just covered four punts full field and run 6 plays on offense in a row, and he's still straining for you. So you get to see it every day, and it's and we tell the young guys all the time, hey, watch how 17 practices. It's different, it's special.
Dal, I asked Shane a similar question yesterday, but with your 2 freshmen on the offensive line, Luatosin, Babalade, and Trevon Baugh, what have you seen over the last couple weeks in particular in terms of their growth, and what excites you moving forward with those 2 especially?
What excites me is the body types. Like when you see them, they're put together. They're built the right way. They're freshmen. They haven't been trained. They haven't been through a whole year with Coach Day. So when you just look at them, we're recruiting the right type bodies here. The guys that are big and thick and strong and have length. But then you watch Tro. Like Tro has football instinct, and he's got an edge to him. Even you go back to the Furman game, and he's down the goal line, and he finishes the guy in the end zone. Like he's putting his hands up, like, hey, I didn't hold him. Let's see, and he had enough awareness to do that. And Tree just is a guy that can set the edge. He's a big guy. When you play freshman, you're going to live with some mistakes. They're going to make mistakes. They don't have the experiences the older guys have. But at some point, it becomes about talent. And you say, hey, these young talented players are going to learn and get thrown in the fire. And we're expecting them to play well when they do play and when their number's called, and they did last week. They've shown that every day at practice. There's been ups and there's been downs. The kids are smart and they compete hard and they're hungry and like they want to play. They didn't come in with a mindset to, hey, I'm going to red shirt, I'm going to do this. They came in with a mindset of like, I want to impact this team right now. So I've been super fired up about both those guys' development, how they're coming, how they played last week. They still got a long way to go. But when you're recruiting the right body types, like those 2 kids are, it's something to be really excited about in the future.
I'm sure Juice is ready to impact the team again. What can you share about him and kind of where he's at? And it seems like he played a little bit more against Furman than he did week 1, I guess.
It's been a process. Like he's overcoming an injury that most people probably wouldn't be back, and most 99% of the world wouldn't be back from. So he's done a great job of. He's ready to get out there. He's hungry. He's been really focused this week. I actually said something to him today. I'm like, hey, I hadn't heard you all week. He's locked in. Like, I need to be able to be locked in and know what to do before I start running my mouth. And so I know he's excited and he's hungry to get back out there and start playing more. And it'll be more and more as the more he can handle. We'll just continue to progress him that way. But Make no mistake about it, when the last 2 weeks we have missed the presence of a really good player that's working back hard to get back into it. And, 17, that's been the talk right now. But never forget about resumes and never forget about what people have done. And he's impacted this program when they needed it the most last year. And we need that competitive spirit, from here on out.
Dell, kind of sticking with Tree and Tro and even Lenoris and some of the other freshmen, where do you kind of draw the line in terms of getting guys experience and putting freshmen out there versus maybe putting them out there, living with those mistakes and maybe affecting confidence a little bit?
Yeah, you know what? I think Paul Bear Bryant said it way back. If they're going to bite when they're puppies. So when you throw them out there as freshmen and they bite, you should be excited about that. And obviously those three guys played well in the game and impacted the game last week. But they do it at practice every day. So, it's I don't think guys that are confident like that and then you go out there and have a little success like they did last week, there will be ups and downs when they play. There will be, especially when you're young. But they they get it and they understand, there are going to be some down moments, there's going to be some hard moments, but their confidence, they know the process of growth is getting thrown in the fire and going and doing it. So I don't worry about their confidence either. You can't put a value on experience. As a coach, you really don't know what you have until he gets out there and plays. You talk about Sellers. I mean, we're talking about our third team quarterback right now. A guy plays a lot because our backup also plays wide receiver and special teams, so he gets a lot more reps than a third team quarterback. He did it. We saw it. There was a buzz about him in camp, and he works the right way. And so when he got out there, we expected him to play well. We expected him to do what he did. And I know he clarified, he did a little bit too much on that touchdown pass, but the throw was amazing. And it was you guys ever seen Major League when the guy catches it over his head and Lou Brown's hey, nice catch, don't ever do it again. It was kind of like that moment of hey, that was an unbelievable throw. And you had time in the pocket to do that because the offensive line protected well for you. And Tyshawn streaking down the sideline. So you got to know when you can and can't do that stuff, and you chose correctly. So you also don't want players that can only do what the paper says. Those guys are just good enough to get you beat in this conference. You need guys that can take that playbook and make it come to life. And you need guys that can do more than what just their coach to do. A coach can't we can't get these guys ready for every eventuality that will happen in a game. And so those guys got to go out there and play football and see things. And it's like Spencer, the more you see, the more we give you. And those three guys played well last week as young guys.
With this running game specifically, a little bit more success last week, a few more bodies in there than the North Carolina game. What was your evaluation of that against Furman, and where is the running game right now going into SEC play?
Yeah, this is going to be a different ball game. Obviously, when you start SEC play, it's a line and scrimmage league. It's everything starts and finishes with that in this conference. I thought we were probably a little bit better against Furman than we were against North Carolina, but still got a long way to go. We're still growing. We're still trying to figure out our best 5 offensive linemen, and that's going to be a process. I told you guys a couple weeks ago, we're not there yet. And this week will be another huge test. This team is really good, really good. And we're also excited about the opportunity to kind of figure out where we're at and continue to go forward and continue to grow on.
Dell, is there a point in the offseason where you have time to carve out some time to look at some of the earlier teams on your schedule beyond the opener, analytics and so forth? And how much time did you spend on Georgia? And what do you think about, just how they go about things strategy-wise on defense?
Yeah, Coach Beamer, actually, we have summer scouting reports, so we spend time on every opponent, and we do it in reverse order. So we start from the back and continue to each week. We have a coach that's assigned to each team, and so we're very thorough in the offseason with studying each opponent. The last 2 we just played, and this one, the next one. Every team we put eyes on, we broke down. We've studied from last year. Now they've played 2 games, so there's a little bit of tape, so you have a little bit better understanding of their roster. When you watch the tape from last year, you can see why the Philadelphia Eagles are good because half their team plays for them. But it's an extremely talented team. They've got a ton of 4- and 5-star players, and they've recruited really well. And they play with an intensity that I think they get from their head coach. It seems like a very intense guy as well. They've got every scheme. I mean, it's like being back in the NFL and you talk about scheme. And they've got them all. They've got every adjustment to quarters, and they've got every simulated pressure and every version of man coverage you can play, every version of cover 3. So it's a task that for recognition, communication for our quarterbacks, our wide receivers, our tight ends, our offensive line. They create a lot of stress, not just because they're so talented and they've done such a good job recruiting, but they tackle well, and then you put the scheme on top of it, which will be arguably one of the toughest schemes we face this year, if not the toughest. So they offer a lot of different challenges that way.
Thank you. In preparing for an opponent, do you study the other defensive coordinator very much to kind of learn his tendency? In this case, you got 2 in particular. I'm just wondering about Will Muschamp, and if you've looked into his history and his defensive call playing tendencies, and if you kind of prepare for that when you face an opponent.
Yeah, you look at one of the first things we do when in the summer scouting report stuff is we look at where their staff's been. Their resumes. Obviously, Georgia's got really good coaches with a lot of really good resumes, and obviously Coach Muschamp's been a head coach, multiple spots, been a very successful defensive coordinator, and their other defensive coordinator and coach, the head coach, Coach Smart, like they do a good job. It's a very knowledgeable group. They're very well coached, and you can tell it's also a group that loves football because when you watch their tape from year in, year out, there's always new themes, there's new schemes. They do a good job of taking the personnel they have and studying other things that other people are doing and finding what fits them. And they're also creative on defense with how they use their personnel. And they don't put their guys in bad situations very much. Most of the time, it's an advantageous situation. So when you put a bunch of really good players in advantageous situations, you get a product like they have. So we definitely study all of their tendencies. And the head coach obviously is a defensive head coach and had a ton of success for a long time in this conference. So it's something we've looked at all their, not just their coordinator and co-coordinator and linebacker coach, and it's all of them. We look at all of that stuff.
When you say it's going to be a process to figure out the best 5 on the offensive line, is it more about figuring out who the best 5 are in a given spot, or is it more about getting some of the freshmen kind of coached up and more experienced to be able to take on one of those spots? Yeah,
you definitely want to put guys out there when they're ready to play, and that's some of that's the old line coach. We have a saying around here: you're the head coach of your position group. And that's on Teasley and Atkins and those guys to kind of figure out when guys are ready. And obviously Coach Beamer and myself are involved in that process. But it's not – you can't just say, hey, you're going to be – the second game you're going to be ready, the third game you're going to be ready. It's also what kind of week of practice do you have? How are you trending the right way? Are you a guy that's declining? All those things go into it, and it is a process about, especially when you're playing young guys, figuring out when it's time to put those guys out there and where their understanding is, because you're also protecting the most important person in our football organization in Spencer. So there's a tremendous amount of responsibility for them as players, but us as coaches to make sure that we don't put someone out there before they're ready to go out there. From that standpoint, so it's not an easy decision. That's why it is a process, because there's a lot of things that go into that decision making process.
Not having been here last year for Tennessee and Clemson, I'm curious what you consider the biggest upset you've been a part of in your career, and also just kind of, does it change how you prepare when you're going into a game like this, knowing a lot has to go right for you guys to come out with a win?
My biggest in my whole career, player, coach. As a player, we beat LSU when Saban was there, and I think 0-1. To go to the SEC championship game, and we won. It was like the was Miracle on Markham last play, and I think Saban, that happened then that year earlier against Kentucky. And then we went and played Georgia in the SEC championship game, which was probably the loudest environment I've ever been a part of. Like the Bulldogs in Atlanta in the Dome, which was loud. And then as a coach, I would probably say we played in 2017. We played the Vikings when they were like 5-0, and we were like 1-4. We were a bad football team, and we played them on Monday night and got them. The guys played really well and played to the max of their abilities, and we played a really good team, and we didn't turn it over. We made them earn everything, and to pull upsets off, I think when you go back and you look at the way that we played last year, I say we as in Carolina, the beat Tennessee and beat Clemson, and just knowing the mindset of, like, they were huge underdogs in both those games. But when you play teams like this, it really is about you, and it's about you. We all know that this team is really talented. They're the number one team in the country. They've won 2 national titles, and but you have to make them earn everything, and you can't give them things. And if you do, then it gets lopsided real fast because they're a talented, well-coached team, and they deserve everything that they've gotten, and they've earned it. So you got to make sure they continue to earn things. Like, we're playing a good opponent, but we also have a lot of talent in our locker room that we're excited about. We've had 2 good days of practice, so we're excited to finish up tomorrow and put in the red area stuff. And so that's where our focus is. Like, we're playing a good team, and we acknowledge it, going in an atmosphere that is pretty intense. I got to play there, and I coached there in 21 and got to play there as a player, and it's extremely loud. We struggle with the noise at Arkansas, and 21 had multiple false starts, and you get down there next to their band and their student section is loud and it's intense. So, but this is why when you're getting recruited and you go play in the SEC for opportunities like this, that's why as a coach, like, when you have a chance to coach in the SEC, everybody wants to coach in the SEC. It's for games like this. It's CBS, it's Georgia, Carolina, and we're excited about it. Thanks, Coach. Thank you, guys.